I am not 25 anymore. There's so much anxiety, I think, in young people right now. What works for one actor, what doesn't work for the other actor to try to get a similar result.
You are now fused with the Vulcan Evolvement podcast with our international team. Dan is in California, USA.
And Vladi is located in España, Europa.
Un español perfecto. Through core discussions, interviews, and relating our own personal life awareness.
Our aim is to make your life journey a bit more peaceful by allowing our podcast to educate, evoke, and entertain. Now, in this episode, you could be educated because we have a professor from San Diego State University joining us. Yes, a fellow Californian near me. Hooray!
Yes.
Now, allow me to elaborate for a minute, providing some background on this very special person. The prof is currently in a transitional period, taking over as interim director of the theater, TV, and film department, as well as helping with the development of new work that is being done as part of the new musicals initiative that he co-founded. Now, our Mr. Chip's career journey started off as him being an actor, which led to directing, choreographing, then on to professorship, and finally as artistic director. Now, yes, besides teaching, he also directs professionally.
Our accomplished guest was born in Flint, Michigan, and raised in a suburb called Grand Blanc, Michigan as well. He received a BFA in Music Theater Performance from Western Michigan University and MFA in Directing for the Musical Theater Stage from Pennsylvania State University. He also taught at both institutions. This skilled artist has worked on Broadway and off-Broadway too. Without further ado, I present Stephen Brotebeck.
Woo! Yes!
Hello.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
It's so nice to see your puss.
Yours as well.
And listen, wow, what a resume. I do have to insert here something that you have been connected to the iconic AIDS organization Broadway Cares. Yep. And directed a benefit for them in Toronto with the casts of Pippin and Wicked. Okay, I must fully disclose here. I first met Stephen quite a few moons ago, although we both still look the same. I don't know how that has happened.
Yeah.
When we sailed transatlantic on the Queen Mary II from New York to Southampton, England.
Oh my gosh, you do not have that photo. Look at that. Ah! Oh my goodness. I love it. What a group. Oh my gosh, there's another one. Oh, that's my friend Jason, who I was cruising with. We were in the national tour of Pippin together. Oh my gosh. That was some hair that I had back then, that's for sure.
Are you still in touch with him?
Yes, Jason and I are still in touch. Yeah, he's living in New York. I moved out to San Diego in 2015, but yeah, we are still in touch.
One last memory.
Yes. Oh my gosh. and you can flash that phone number because it doesn't exist anymore. So that was that was one of my headshots when I was an actor in New York back. I think it was still in the black and white phase. I don't think we had gone to color headshots yet, but man. Oh.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. Did I give you that business card when I was on the ship?
You did. Yes, obviously I still have it. Yes.
I was wondering where you got that.
Well, so many faces, so many parts of you. So I hope today we'll have the possibility to just touch some of them, because I know there will be a lot of more of them. So let's start with your part of being an educator. What is the best thing you like about being an educator?
Well, the main reason I left New York and came to San Diego State was I was ready to start giving back as an educator. I had been working professionally as a director and a choreographer, and I'd always had education in my brain. I was mentored by some amazing individuals throughout my career, starting in high school with my high school choir director, through my undergraduate years, and then in my graduate degree as well. And what they were able to give me, I wanted to give back to the next generation of musical theater performers and directors and choreographers. And so our program at San Diego State is an MFA program in musical theater. It's one of the only MFAs in musical theater in the whole country. What we're doing is actually taking performers, directors, choreographers who have been in the profession for a long time. They come back to school and they want to be musical theater educators. So we're basically teaching them how to teach or mentoring them through that process. A lot of our students have been on Broadway. They've gone through, the rigor of a professional career. And so being able to help them fine tune their pedagogical practice for me has been so rewarding, and it's what I still love to do.
Can you share a memorable experience that you've had while teaching? Does anything call to mind?
Oh, there's so many. I think my favorite thing is I created there was one course in directing when I got here, and I created 2 more courses over the 9 years that I've been here. And being able to mentor students as a director one-on-one, those are my favorite memories. And, what's great to see is how they start in the first directing class, and then I get to coach them as they work with undergraduate students and graduate students in their directing practice. But then being able to see the work that they do once they leave the university. We have an amazing theater scene here in San Diego, and so being able to see their work then on the stages in professional theater in San Diego, I think that's what I cherish the most, is just seeing how they have made that leap.
So we here have named 3 parts: a director, a choreographer, and a teacher, educator. What is the most difficult, most challenging of each of them?
So I think the most challenging thing as a director, honestly, is the management of personalities. I mean, when you direct a show, you are working with a variety of different actors who all come to the table with amazing skills, but different ways of working. Not every actor is going to work the same way. And so I have to be able to identify what works for one actor, what doesn't work for the other actor, to try to get a similar result, and that we all sort of are rowing in the same direction, so that we're creating this unified, collaborative piece of theater. Then you're working with a design team as well, who all come from different perspectives, and then stage management team. And so I really liken being a director as being the captain of a ship, because you really have to make sure that you know what's happening in all of the departments, but that it's all funneling to the same goal, which is to get the ship to port, right? To use a ship metaphor, Danny, since that's where we met. So I thought that would be fun. Being an educator, I think the most challenging thing, honestly, is meeting students where they're at as well. I mean, it's very similar to directing, because especially nowadays, students come from a wide variety of different experiences. And especially coming out of COVID, there's so much that has happened in terms of virtual learning and not having that tactile experience in the classroom. And so having to adjust in post-COVID years has been one of the biggest challenges. But it's also been exciting because we've been able to use new technology that really translates to what students want to do and what they are aiming to do in their careers. And then as a choreographer, as I get older, the biggest challenge is the stamina. I just marched in the San Diego Pride Parade this past Saturday with Diversionary Theater, a professional theater I've worked here in town, and you get that adrenaline when you turn the corner and everyone just starts screaming. I mean, marching in a Pride Parade is probably one of the most exhilarating experiences in life, and you get that adrenaline, and so you just go. And so I had this big sign, and I was dancing, and I was kicking my legs, and then at the end of it, I was like, the adrenaline wore off, and I thought, oh my gosh, I am not 25 anymore. And so as a choreographer teaching, you've got to keep that stamina going throughout as I get older.
That does happen, doesn't it, Vladi?
What do you feel when you face that?
I actually, it's interesting because I feel good at the end of it, because I feel like I've pushed through something and it's been a challenge, and it's something to overcome. I mean, in the moment, I think those stamina issues can be hard. And when you're trying to get through, so my days will start at anywhere between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. And then if I'm in rehearsal, I don't finish until 10 o'clock at night here on campus or in town if I'm directing, and then start all over again. And that's 5 days a week, sometimes 6. So it's hard, I think, when you're doing it, but the sense of accomplishment, because of what I do, I love, and I'm fulfilled by it so much. And I think it's one of the things my dad taught me. My dad passed away at a really young age, but he had always said to my brother and myself, he said, I worked a job in my life that I didn't love because I wanted to give you the opportunity to pursue what you loved. So don't ever not pursue what you love in your life, because that's all you have. And so I've kept that with me my whole life.
You are now artistic director of the Divisionary Theater. I've never really heard of that, and I really want you to expound and educate us here on, because I read a little bit about it online, and it's like, wow, I'm so happy they're doing that. Please tell us.
Yeah, so I was the interim artistic director for a year as they were transitioning from someone who had been there for, I think 9 or 10 years as the artistic director, doing a national search then. And so I'm actually not the artistic director anymore. There is a new artistic director, Sherry Eden Barber. So my role there was always going to be temporary, because with my full-time job at San Diego State, it was going to be hard for me to then take on a full-time job at Diversionary. But I am directing the first show of the season in the fall, called Midnight at the Never Get, which is very exciting. But Diversionary itself is the third oldest LGBTQIA+ theater in the country. It was founded in the early 80s out of the HIV/AIDS epidemic as a place for the community to gather, to tell stories, to write stories, to celebrate life, but also to act up and to protest and to create a movement. And so it was really born out of those times, and it has been central to the San Diego gay community and queer community as a cornerstone of the movement that's happened not only in San Diego, but in Southern California, and the country as a whole. The previous artistic director, Matt Morrow, who joined around 2015 when I moved, I think 2014 when I moved here in San Diego in 2015, really helped elevate the theater to not only more statewide prominence, but national prominence. And so the theater has done a numerous amount of world premiere musicals and plays, all surrounding and featuring the LGBTQIA+ community and experience. It really is not just about theater, but it's about community engagement and education. There are 9 free education programs at Diversionary that reach out into the schools. And we know how important that is right now as lawmakers are trying to strip away education and queer education and DEI education in schools. And we as Diversionary, as an organization, are pushing back on that. So that's just a little bit about what Diversionary does. But Danny, you should come down and see the show I'm directing in the fall. I'd love to have you as my guest. I think
Please put me on your VIP list. I'm serious. I'd love to see it.
Always. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I will invite you for sure. There are other queer theaters, LGBTQIA+ theaters around the country, but I would say Diversionary, while the third oldest, is probably the largest in the country. We have 2 performance spaces, a Clark Cabaret, which runs 5 nights a week with live music, drag performances, drag queen bingo, everything you can think of. So it's not only a theater, but it's a community gathering space as well.
I love it.
Yeah.
Stephen, has teaching changed since you've started your career?
It has. I mean, teaching has changed a lot. I think these things right here have really changed how we teach, because if we talk about attention span, first of all, and so it's keeping engagement within the classroom, especially with undergraduate students, but also what they're going to be focusing on and how the political world has changed, and the lack of there's a feeling of there's so much anxiety, I think, in young people right now, because there's so much change. We really are living through, they keep saying we're living through unprecedented times. And I think I read something on Twitter the other day, or X or whatever you want to call it, that said, can we please live in precedented times for a few months? That would be nice. And so I think as educators, we have to respond to how students are feeling in this moment. I mean, we have our own feelings about the moment, but students, as they are really finding out who they are and they're developing their personalities and who they are as humans and discovering who they are and their identity, that becomes a lot of teaching as well, is supporting that, not just teaching the curriculum and making sure students are succeeding academically, but especially in theater and musical theater, it's making sure students, their mental health is taken care of, that you're supporting them through so many of these challenging times. And also theater itself deals with the moment, right? Theater and musical theater is the one art form that I think can respond to a moment almost immediately, because something can happen and someone can write a monologue and perform it the next day, right? So it's immediate, and we have to take care of our students in that way because we're putting them in vulnerable situations in the roles that they're playing as well.
I like these changing from learning to discovering, this like a different sort of mentality, and stop learning and start discovering. And what have you discovered about you, Stephen?
That's great. I lifelong learner is what I like to say. I mean, like I discover and learn from my students all the time. They bring things into the classroom, whether it be technology or whether it be their own experience that I may not know or have not heard of or have not experienced. And so taking the time to do that and making those discoveries in my personal life and reflecting on that is huge, and I think that's, you asked me, I think earlier before we started, what's the secret to staying young? And I think that's it. I think teaching really is that, because you're staying connected to a new generation and what they're experiencing. And that allows for self-discovery on a daily basis. Instill in all of my students is self-reflection. And whether it be through writing or just, walking from the classroom to the car or the classroom to the subway or something, is having just a few moments of like, how did that go for me? How was I feeling in that moment? How is that different than the last time? And how is that affecting me today as a human being? And I do that on a daily basis, whether it's formal or not. And that's one of the biggest discoveries that I think I continue to make as I continue to teach every generation that's coming up.
I have so much respect for directors. I don't think I'd want to do it because, I mean, you are everything. I mean, you are mother, you are father, you are director, choreographer, therapist, friend. I mean, you have to play so many parts when you direct because you're trying to get them from A to B to C or D. If I were you, I would be so tired when I get home at night because
I am
clear, focused.
Yeah. That is the thing. Like the minute, even before the rehearsal starts, you have to get yourself focused and knowing like, okay, what am I trying to accomplish today? And it's all of the things that you just said and more. I mean, you could have an actor come in who has had a terrible day in their personal life. And as much as we say, you leave it outside the room and all of that sort of thing, you can't. You are human beings. Like that is going to come in. And so you have to be sensitive as a director, I believe, to know, even if that person hasn't told you they've had a rough day, you have to go, okay, there's something off today about this actor. I'm not going to necessarily pry, but I'm going to be more gentle today in what we work on. Or maybe I change the schedule so we're not doing a scene that really has to require so much emotional vulnerability, and maybe we work on something that's a little bit lighter today because it seems like this person is going through a tough time. And you just have to have that wherewithal and that focus. I mean, I think the directors that have tunnel vision tend to not be as successful, but it's not always the case. Because I mean, if you think about the lineage of great directors, people like Bob Fosse and Jerome Robbins and Michael Bennett, there are plenty of stories about how awful they were in rehearsal and how terrible they treated people, but they created amazing work. I just don't think there's a place for that in 2024 in how we work in the profession as directors and choreographers, because mental health is so important for the longevity of not only ourselves as human beings, but in the longevity as a career as an actor as well.
Stephen, acting and directing, what do you think? How do them help you in your personal life, and vice versa? How your personal experience help you in those activities?
I'll start backwards first. Everything I do in my personal life, whether it be travel, seeing movies, reading a book, watching movies, any of those life experiences informs who I am as a director, and it allows for an immense amount of perspective and experience to put into whatever show that I'm directing. I mean, one of the first things I do when I direct a show is after reading it the first time is to dive into research. And I researched not only the period of the show where it came from, but when it was written, and what's happening in the world at the time and all of that sort of thing. So that to me, I think is really important. I think as an actor, I haven't been an actor for a long time, but I remember that even acting class, and I see this with students nowadays, is that it unlocks so much about who you are as a human being. And you're able to sometimes access someone who may not have the emotional intelligence to necessarily deal with certain situations in their real life. They can do that as an actor because they're playing a part and because they don't have to necessarily access a personal experience. I mean, there are many different, schools of acting, sense memory and Meisner and all of this sort of thing. But I think some of the best actors aren't as emotionally intelligent in their personal lives as they are on stage because they can separate that. And then there are those who are completely open and fluid in both, and it just kind of crosses over. That has its own excitements, but also pitfalls, because then it takes a little bit more time at the end of a show or a rehearsal to let that go and let that wind down and not let that creep into your personal life.
You're so right, because I started off in my 20s as an actor, majored in college and blah, blah, blah. And I have always said that everybody in high school, even elementary, well, high school, I guess, should have acting 101, because it really gets you in touch with your deeper self.
Yep. Acting 101 and improv, to be honest with you, because improv is just so good when it comes to just conversation and being able to speak on your feet. The soft skills that you learn from taking an acting 101 class or an improv class or even a theater 100 class, like the soft skills of theater classes translate across all professions, public speaking and confidence and all of this. And so I always encourage, we have a BA undergrad program here, which allows the students to take many more classes than, say, a BFA conservatory program, and allows them to really round out their education. And we have a lot of acting for non-majors classes here as well. And we get, journalism students, public speaking students, a lot of international students where English is a second language, and what they do in one semester and how they progress. Just they're not going to be actors, they're not going to be professional actors, but they're going to be able to incorporate that into their careers and in their personal lives.
Most definitely, yeah. Shifting focus a little bit, you mentioned a while back that you lost your father, and I think you were about 21 years old. Please tell us about that experience and how you dealt with the loss and the grief and so on.
Yeah, it was hard. I had just graduated from my undergrad at Western Michigan on a Saturday. My dad was there, my whole family. It was a really wonderful celebration. They left on Sunday, and then he passed away the next day on Monday. And so it was completely out of nowhere. It was a shock. It was a sudden heart attack. When I talk about this and I think about it to this day, my life feels like it's in two parts. It feels like, and because of those two events of graduating from undergrad and my father passing away all within 48 hours, it just feels like there's a big sort of separation there between part one of my life and part two of my life with that. Dealing with the grief was hard because one of the things that, and my fiance will tell you about this, is that one of the things I struggle with is the afterlife and death. Like, it's unknown, and I'm not a big fan of unknown. I like to know what am I getting into? Like, what's happening, right? What's next? I like to know details. And so death has always been hard for me. And I immediately had a contract on a cruise ship already. And so I was getting ready to leave in about 3 or 4 weeks to start rehearsals in LA and then do a 6-month contract on Holland America as a singer and a dancer. And I remember saying to my mom, I was like, bow out of this contract and stay home and, all of this. And she said, you won't. Your father will not want you to do that. Your father said, do what you love. And this is why I worked so hard. You are going to do that contract. You're going to do what you love. I'll come visit you. I will be fine. So I did that. And I think because of that, I sort of compartmentalized my grief for a bit. Obviously, during the visitation and the funeral and so many family members coming in, there was a lot of grieving. But then once I started rehearsal, I was able to shut that off for a bit. So I went into rehearsal, I dove into my work, and then we opened all of the shows on the ship. And then I remember so interesting because someone had mentioned the series Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, and I had just read a book. They suggested it for me out of grief, and so I started reading it. And we were on the ship, and lo and behold, he was there and doing a seminar or like a cruise with some of people who had. And so I had a chance to sit in on one of those and meet him and talk to him. And it was after that meeting that night, I went back to my cabin and I cried and lost it, probably for the first time since the funeral. And everything over the past 2 or 3 months just washed over me. And I finally had that release that I hadn't been able to have. So it was quite astounding. And I continually deal with it, to this day. I mean, it's something I've talked about in therapy, and it doesn't go away, because for so much of my life, the years that when I was having all this great success as an actor, and then working on Broadway and all of this, I just knowing that my dad, of course, he's seeing it and he's with me and all of that, but physically not being able to see that has it's hard. But I also have an amazingly supportive and wonderful mother who's she's a best friend. She's just absolutely wonderful, and she's been so supportive of me, and I love her so much. And that support system has been able to keep me going throughout all of these years.
Is she still in Michigan?
No, she moved out to Palm Desert 3 years ago to become, my brother and sister-in-law live in Michigan. So she was with them while my nephews grew up. And so she wanted to see them graduate high school. And then she's like, I want to go somewhere warm. I'm coming out to California. So she lives in Palm Desert.
Here. It's very warm here. Yes. Well, you know what? We're talking about this. What do you think happens after we die?
That's a great question. I truly believe that we are energy and our soul cannot die. I can't believe that it's just over, that you pass away and it's gone. The energy and the spirit lives on. I just don't know in what form. I really don't.
Stephen, what could be some learnings or advices that you could take from this experience and maybe give them to the people who are facing this situation?
You mean the loss of a parent?
Yes.
Yeah. I will say a lesson that I learned, because I feel like in therapy it still comes back a little bit more, is to try to deal with it sooner, earlier in the process. Because I think even though I had that release maybe 2 or 3 months later, I thought then I was good to go. And I sort of just again dove into my work, and really my fiance Isaiah and I have been together for about 3 years, but before him none of my relationships lasted longer than maybe 6 months or a year, so I never really had a long-term relationship. I don't know how that's connected to my father passing away at a young age, but I don't think I truly allowed myself to dive into it more and how it has affected me until recently when he and I got together, because he asked me about it and things have come up and I was able to talk through it in therapy and things like that. So I would say I wish I would have gotten into therapy earlier with that. That would have been one thing.
So tell us about Isaiah, now that you brought Isaiah up. Yeah. You've been together 3 years. I think you are engaged.
Yes, we're getting married in July of 2025. And I feel like this is a theme in my life, but I do love the water. We're getting married on a cruise ship. We're going to do a Caribbean cruise with all of our friends and family. And we'll get married. I think we're looking at a couple different islands, but I think we're going to get married on the beach in Cozumel. We'll most likely get married before we leave, like officially, and then the ceremony in Cozumel will be, more of a celebration and all of that. But it will be a full ceremony. So we met out of the pandemic. I remember staying in my apartment and not dating anyone until I had that second vaccination shot. Then I rejoined the dating apps, and I remember wonderful friends Karen and Rob here. Rob's a good colleague of mine. We were sitting around having dinner. We used to, during the pandemic, we would have Friday night dinner, which is go out, sit in the backyard at their table. I would come over and we would have dinner outside every Friday night throughout the pandemic. And it was really nice to have a bubble of people to do that with. And I remember saying, I'm interested in dating again. And Karen said, because I'm a big fan of Pete Buttigieg and Chasten. And I remember she said, Chasten and Pete met on Hinge. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Well, let me try Hinge. I hadn't tried that yet. So I joined Hinge and Isaiah was one of the first people that connected with me. We went on our first date, and it was magic from there. I mean, it went very quickly, and we've been together ever since. He's in politics. He has a master's degree in public policy and international affairs, and works as a finance director for various political campaigns. And we have different focuses, which is great. But I have a great interest in politics as well, so we share that, and he has a great interest and love of the arts as well. And so it's a really great match.
Wow.
And he's the love of my life, and I found him on Hinge, and so
so it works.
It works.
Do you have a picture of him nearby? We can see what he looks like.
Yes, here we go. So this is us in Puerto Vallarta. Let's see. Let me back it up a little bit. There we go.
Oh.
Well, let's take some fun questions.
Okay.
And sometimes we get deeper, so be ready.
Okay.
Well, could you please name us one of your favorite musicals of all time?
Oh.
Gosh, I know this is so crazy, because people ask me this question all the time, like, what's your favorite musical? And I was like, you're asking a musical theater person their favorite musical?
It can be challenging.
I know. My most favorite musicals to perform in were, I did the European tour of West Side Story and the national tour of Pippin. So I would say those two are my top two.
Name one of your favorite cities.
Buenos Aires. Absolutely.
Oh.
I love it
Argentina.
there. Yeah.
You live in San Diego.
Yeah.
Not too far from Balboa Park and Hillcrest.
Yeah.
What do you like about living in San Diego?
So after living in New York City for 14 years, first of all, I love the weather of San Diego. It's, I think, the most perfect weather in the country. It's hot when it needs to be, and it's cool when it needs to be, but it's never cold. Very rarely does it get super hot. But what I love about it is that it has everything that I want in a big city, but it doesn't feel like a New York City or a Chicago or Atlanta. The traffic is starting to get a little bit similar to LA, unfortunately, but because more people are moving here. But it also has a thriving theater scene. We have two of the best regional theaters in the country, with La Jolla Playhouse and the Old Globe Theater. All those theaters send shows to Broadway all the time. The gay scene is absolutely wonderful. The Hillcrest and the community. I mean, the Pride. I had not been here for Pride in the 9 years that I'd been here, because I had been the artistic director of a summer theater up in Iowa. So I was always gone during Pride. And this is my first full weekend of Pride here. And not only the parade and the kickoff festival, but the festival in Balboa Park is just outstanding. It's huge. And the amount of people and the support and the community, having a theater like Diversionary. I mean, I don't know what's not to love about San Diego, to be honest with you.
I love
I hope
it.
to see you here in Madrid for the Gay Pride one year.
That would be great.
See you here. Well, Stephen, who do you consider a hero or your role model?
My mom.
Oh.
Yeah. No, my mom, 100%. Yeah.
What is that model about?
She just taught us how to live, and through so much adversity, reinvented who she was after her husband died, and took on life when she could have not, right? She had never lived by herself and had been with my dad since she graduated from high school, and reinvented her life and who she was, and has become this amazing, she always has been, but even more so, this amazing, dynamic, wonderful human being, and with so much love, and brings so much joy to my life and to other people's lives. So yeah, she's a hero of mine.
Name one of your favorite films of all time.
I'm going to say two. One, and they're both kind of campy. One is Clue, the music, Clue with Leslie Ann Warren, Tim Curry. It's absolutely hysterical. It's like a murder mystery farce that you would see on stage, but in a movie. It's so good. And then the other is a really camp classic, Drop Dead Gorgeous. It's a spoof on local beauty pageants in Minnesota, and it's just absolutely hysterical. Allison Janney is hilarious in that movie. Absolutely funny.
Oh, I love her.
Me too.
What do you wear to bed at night, if anything?
I don't wear anything to bed. No, I don't wear anything.
That's a good question.
Yeah. No, I sleep naked. I don't wear anything to bed.
Well, Stephen, name a celebrity that you'd like to spend an evening with.
Pete Buttigieg.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, I love him. Oh,
He's
my
so
God.
smart. I just think he's so smart, so intelligent, has such amazing vision. Yeah, 100%.
What question would be your number one asking him?
How do you fix the mess that we're in? That would be my question. No, I think my question would honestly be, what motivates you? What motivates you to do what you do?
Stephen, what motivates you to do what you do?
That is a good question. What motivates me is the passion that I have for what I do. And I always say doing theater is not brain surgery. And sometimes when we get into a tech rehearsal or, time is running out and we're trying to get everything done, tensions can get high, people are tired, and it seems like there's no end in sight. However, when I see it all come together and the impact that arts can have on people, and art doesn't have to necessarily change people's lives from a social justice standpoint all of the time. And when it does, it's amazing and phenomenal, because I think that's what good art can do that. And it has been so consequential for artists to do that throughout our life. But I'm also a big believer that art heals, and art is just something that can make someone feel better after coming to the theater or going to a movie or a concert for the night. They don't necessarily have to enact social change by coming to the theater all the time, but if they just leave feeling better about themselves or feeling better about life, that's all that matters. And so that motivates me, because I know whether I'm doing a show that has a deeply political message that is really important and needs to be told, or if I'm doing a farce that is just making people laugh and forget about their lives for a couple of hours, that I'm making an impact.
Very well said. You being an educator, name one of your favorite teachers and a teacher that has had a great impact on your life.
So my mentor in my graduate school was Susan H. Schulman. She directed The Secret Garden on Broadway, the original production. She had a Tony nomination for the first revival of Sweeney Todd. She has had the most impact on my life. And really, when I went to graduate school, I was transitioning from being an actor to a director, and she really helped shape who I am as a director and how I approach the work that I do, not only in my directing, but in my administrative life and everything else that I do. So she's had a huge impact on my life. And I will say another shout out to my high school choir director, Levon Bomley, is the one who saw in me. I had long arms and long legs, always this gangly, young kid that was singing in the choir and over exuberant. And she saw that I had so much potential when I was in high school as a freshman. And she took the time to help guide me through so many different opportunities that I could do. She introduced me to this summer camp called Interlochen in northern Michigan, and I was able to go up there, and that really helped transform. But the dedication that she had for her students in high school, and also for encouraging us to be who we were in the early 90s, it was just absolutely outstanding. And she's still a dear friend of mine to this day.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Stephen, what word or short phrase would describe Stephen Brotebeck?
Fiercely loyal and compassionate.
Lovely, lovely. We want to extend to you a gracious thank you, Stephen, for sharing with us today and teaching us what it's like to be a teacher. And before we end, we just want to thank all you guys out there for your love and support that you have shown us since we started this podcast earlier this year.
And do comment on our episodes. Stay tuned for our next episode, which is coming shortly. And please subscribe and like us as well.
Adios.
Ciao.
From Spain and California.